Well, hello and welcome to this final update from the road from our PAX GDC trip.
The long and heavy road trip.
Yes, the road is the road. We've been on it.
I think this is day 10 on the road.
11?
11?
Yeah.
And obviously it's been 3 days of PAX, 5 days of GDC, lots of content already up on GRTV, but there's going to be tons and tons and tons more content coming up over...
I think we're around 300, no, yeah, coming up on 400 gigabytes of footage. So yeah,
that's a lot of gigabytes.
Now we need to edit that.
Yeah, I mean it's around the same amount of footage as you'd see come out of E3, but then we're a lot more people doing it.
Yeah,
so.
then we're two teams, and I mean E3 is way more structured than both PAX and GDC, because then you go to like these big booths with the publishers, and you know, you get 10 interviews in a row.
Exactly. So it's much more time efficient.
It's a bit loud, I have to pardon. We're in the lobby of our hotel since, well, we got kicked out of our room because we had to check out.
We had to check out.
But we want to update you before we get on the plane and share with you a little bit, a couple of like highlights or memorable parts.
Some of the funny things and some of the...
yeah, I mean, you're doing these interviews and getting them structured, but every now and again something funny happens, or you get a little bit of snippet of information that you weren't really expecting. And,
yeah, or you get a glimpse of a couple of shoes, and I think that's the segue into this clip.
Yeah, so during our interview with Suda51, Bengt,
I felt an obligation to you, the viewer, to ask him about his shoes, because it sort of kind of fitted in with the game as well, the graphical style or the aesthetics.
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
game,
Suda51 is kind of over the top. His games are, of course, over the top, so it was all fitting well together.
So. It's got this sort of almost cel-shaded style, but it's like the textures are different. There's more tactile feeling to it. There's more shine. There's more reflections. I looked at your shoes, and I sort of immediately thought of what the game looks like. Can you tell us a little bit about how the details of the graphical style and what you want to achieve with it?
For this title, we created this, or we're calling it the high contrast shading. It's a little different from photo rendering or cel shading, but we just want to really come up with like a very cool look. Like you mentioned, like my shoes. I think it looks cool, but it has this functionality, but it still looks good, and it really has an impact to people who look at it. So I always want to provide some kind of new experience, new shock value, new art style to the users.
He's a great guy. And next up, this was also a little bit surprising when we walked into the suite of American McGee, because normally when we walk into a suite, we expect it to be full of like posters and the game is running on a screen. Or
there's complimentary soda and candy, and then there's two PR people standing, listening to every word.
We just felt like we were stepping into American McGee's suite where he was staying.
Yeah, which we were, and very cozy and friendly. And he's a nice guy, and he had some choice things to say about what everybody is waiting for, Alice 3.
Yes.
Roll clip.
You made a bit of a splash on Facebook with when you asked people whether they would be interested in Alice 3. Could you just give us an update on what's happening with that? I know you had a meeting this week here with EA.
Yeah, so the first Alice obviously became a cult classic. We did Madness Returns, that did really well. A lot of fans loved that. Did decent reviews, and so then we've gone back and now started discussing with EA the possibility of doing a third. I was already thinking about the story and presentation for this back as we were working on the second, and so we put together a little presentation, have started this dialogue, but as much as they are positive and we're positive that we might be able to make something work here, these things can take an incredibly long time. By way of example, the Alice project took 2 years for us to develop. Prior to that, it took over 15 months for us to get the deal in place, right? So that was the entire, length of this thing. You're approaching almost 4 years. I certainly hope that we're able to move a little faster on this because it's a slightly different structure that we're proposing. But I think it's a little early to get our hopes up too much.
Next up, we stopped by a booth where I guess you were the expert for once.
Oh yes, with Tripwire.
Yes.
And they were talking about the standalone expansion for Red Orchestra 2.
Is it an expansion even? It's more like its own
basically
game.
It's almost a new game now.
Yeah.
I mean, they really ran with it. Originally a mod, and now it's a whole new thing, which is very exciting. I got to play it a little bit. It was nice. And we had a capture card running, so it was taxing the PC a bit. It wasn't quite as responsive, but I'm sure that was just, like I said, because they were also recording me. So that's my excuse for why I suck at the game.
And we also got to talk to John Gibson and Tony Gilliam about the game. And Gibson, of course, there was a quote very recently about him
very provocative,
calling out Call of Duty.
Yeah, very provocative headline. But as he explained,
he sort of gave us the full, more like his full quote.
Yeah,
of what
for everybody that just read the headline and immediately passed judgment on what he was saying, here's a little bit more in depth behind what he actually meant with the statement.
So we saw a very sort of very strong statement in PC Gamer not so long ago about Call of Duty. Is there anything you'd like to sort of expand on that, on what your sentiments were there?
Sure. Well, I think people read the headline. Tripwire says Call of Duty ruined a generation of gamers, which is not exactly what I said. And some people are looking at it like, oh, Tripwire is just jealous of Call of Duty's success, or they're mad at the gamers for liking it. And it's really not any of those things. I don't blame the Call of Duty devs for wanting to sell a lot of games. Making money is kind of fun. And I don't blame the players for wanting to play it. But the whole point of the article is, because the learning curve, because the skill gap actually in multiplayer shooters has been so compressed by the Call of Duty franchise, it's kind of robbing a generation of gamers of the deeper experiences that we maybe had 10 years ago. And I was just, as a designer of games, very frustrated by that. When you see players that are so conditioned that Call of Duty is the only good way to do things. Yeah. And we would just want them to realize there are other ways to do it that are also good. Not even necessarily what we do. I mean, we'd like to think that people think what we do is great, but you look at some of the other series that are pushing the envelope, like the Arma series. They're really doing something that's a military shooter, but it's not done in the Call of Duty mold. And we'd really like to see players have the opportunity to branch out and have different experiences.
And finally, we don't really know what to make of the Lewandowski brothers, do we?
No. I mean,
are they the Lebowski?
Almost. Yeah. I mean, they're making this very wonky, old school, funny.
It's insane.
I mean, they're throwing everything at it.
The game is Fist Puncher.
Yeah, the Fist Puncher, and it's this old school side-scrolling brawler, but it's just filled with...
Starring Stero Jackson, Hella Fitzgerald,
Dr. Karate, and the Beekeeper.
Yeah, the Beekeeper.
Yeah. And we did an interview / presentation with them while they were playing. But
there was this beautiful thing where the interviews all of a sudden hit a more serious note, and we honestly don't know what to make of this.
No, because if you've seen some of their Kickstarter videos, it's I mean, they have a particular style to their... Yeah, very delicate sense of humor. So yes. Anyway, we're going to roll a little clip from this interview, and I mean, serious or not, interesting.
Yes, just take a look at the brother who's not speaking. Take a look at his eyes.
Yeah. So, I understand that the game started out as something very different. This is a very humorous and sort of comedic thing. Can you tell us a little bit about what the journey has been like with the game?
Yeah, originally we looked at a lot of different types of games and We had some tactics games and some more strategic games and some different stuff we messed around with. But actually some real life events kind of inspired us to mold this and put it into a different direction. And that was really just honestly witnessing crime on the streets of our own neighborhoods. My brother witnessed a murder basically, had his tires slashed. You know, we saw a lot of bad stuff going on the streets. And it kind of made us want to express this visceral feeling of like, you know, the old days, oh, you can solve all those problems by just going out there and kicking people's butt. And it was kind of like, obviously the absurdity of that is hard. It's hard to keep that serious through an entire game. You have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But it was real life events and things that we saw and the frustration with that and wanting to be able to affect those that kind of made this into a button mashing beat 'em up, something where you could have a little bit more action, some little bit more kinetic experience with it, and feel like you could maybe affect those problems that you do see in your communities every day. As hard as that is to believe, when you're down to the character with Dr. Karate, it was based on real life events from the beginning. Ah, I fell off the truck.
Now, of course, we're just, we want to keep this a little bit short, and we can't show you all the interesting clips. I mean, we have all the interviews, of course, coming up later.
So
but
yes,
we'll just roll a little bit of a montage of some of the big names that we met up, both in AAA games and in indies. We mean, we've kind of gotten the whole scale.
Good mixture, but I would say the emphasis is on indies. So over the next few weeks on GRTV, you're going to get to discover a lot of new games that you did not know about. Yeah. And we also got, because we have media badges when we run around GDC, and to a certain extent that was a little bit like wearing a target on your back this year. Because
a target on the front though.
Yeah, or my head, or I don't know. But what it meant was that there's so many indies out there. They're trying to get a little bit of press, and we were approached by a lot of them. Sadly,
I mean, a lot of them didn't even have a booth, but they had passes and they were kind of...
They just wanted to show the game or talk a little bit on camera, and some of the times we did not have time because we have previous appointments.
Unfortunately,
that sort of thing. So sadly,
the schedule is packed. So
yeah.
If you're watching this and we brushed you off, nothing personal.
Absolutely not. We wish.
Send us an email next time. We'll set up an appointment
from the start. Yeah, but we did manage some on the fly, spontaneous things as well. So.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of very interesting things that came out of that. A lot of games that I'm going to check out when I get back.
Absolutely. So. We have a list now.
Longer and longer. But yes, I guess that's it for this final update from PAX and GDC.
We sure enjoyed it.
We have to run and get a plane again.
Yes. Final one.
Well,
there's 2 more planes.
7 hours in Frankfurt layover. So, but it's all for you. So, you know, watch and like and comment and
do all
that,
do all that stuff.
Tell your friends. But yeah.
And your mother and father.
Everybody.
Yes.
So yeah, that's us. See you later.